that the Government has been conducting a comprehensive review of expenditure which goes across all government departments. As part of that exercise, I reviewed the diplomatic service and the diplomatic missions that we have and decided to recommend to Government, and Government agreed to the closure of 3 resident missions. They are the Holy See, Tehran and Timor-Leste. I regret that it is necessary to close any missions, and I would hope that in the course of time, as the country recovers, that we will be able to return to the question of whether or not we should have resident embassies in those locations. But right now, it is not the Government's intention to reverse the decision which has been made. That decision will stand. This country will continue to have diplomatic relations with the Holy See. We intend to appoint an ambassador to the Holy See who will be a senior diplomat located here in Dublin and to service the Holy See directly from Dublin. In respect of the other 2 missions, it is our intention to accredit an ambassador from a neighbouring country to Tehran and to have our ambassador in Singapore service Timor-Leste.
Deputy, can I ask the Tánaiste, first of all, can he say exactly how much money will be saved by the withdrawal of the resident ambassador to the Holy See? Can I ask you further, were there not other options to make what in total was about £1 million, €1 million savings out of 150 million, 1.2 million euro, I think it was, out of 150 million spent in overheads in the department? Can I ask the Tánaiste, would he not agree that the 500 million that we're spending on Ireland aid is very important, and that a lot of that goes to sub-Saharan Africa, where the Church, for example, is involved in 25% of the healthcare providers, where 12 million young people go to church schools, and that connection, does he not agree, because of our contribution to Ireland aid, is not very important? Does he not believe that a connection with an organisation that has 1.3 billion or 17% of the population of the world as adherents, that is in 220,000 parishes throughout the world, does he not believe that that is an important place for us to be in terms of the issues I've raised of human rights, disarmament, the environment, etc.? And can he not find it, does he not find it extraordinary that we have managed to fund this particular residency over all of the years when we were a much poorer country than we are now, and that he has to make this decision now, which I do not believe was made for money reasons, because I do not believe that he couldn't have found the money elsewhere within the vote.
The total savings, Ceann Comhairle, are in the order of 1.2 million. I do acknowledge, and I agree with the Deputy, that it is important to maintain diplomatic relations with the Holy See, and diplomatic relations are being maintained with the Holy See. Secondly, I do agree with him that it is important to respect the position of the Catholic Church in this state, and that is why, when the Government made the decision to close the embassy in the Holy See, I communicated that decision personally and immediately with both Cardinal Brady and Archbishop Martin. Thirdly, I do agree that yes, on issues of human rights and the environment and a whole range of areas, it is important for this country to be actively involved in all of these areas, and that is why we will continue our engagement in the multilateral organisations which are established by the United Nations and other bodies for the conduct of those matters. And we will work with the Holy See through those agencies. Similarly, in relation to our aid programme is not channelled through the Holy See nor is it channelled through any other state. It is channelled in a bilateral way by the state itself, and in a number of cases through multilateral agencies. And that is why we have felt that it was important in the review of the embassies, for example, that we should maintain our embassy network, particularly in those countries where we have a significant aid programme.
Thank you, Tánaiste. Deputy MacDonald.
Tánaiste, later today your government is set to announce the slashing of a further 14,500 staff from the public service. Can I ask you, Tánaiste, have you or government given any consideration as to the impacts that these cuts will have on frontline services that are, as we speak, already under immense pressure? Have you considered, Tánaiste, that your agenda, rather than delivering public service reform, will in fact create a public service slum in this state? When you came into office, you pledged that the choices that you would make would be fair. But what have we seen? On the one hand, 14,500 more jobs to go, to add to the already 450,000 people on the dole. And on the other hand, we see, again, another senior civil servant to walk away with a pension of €114,000 and a lump sum of €204,000. Where, Tánaiste, is the fairness in that? We've already seen the pension scandal where over €8 million of taxpayers' money goes to the pensions of former ministers, many of whom, such as the former leader of your own party, Dick Spring, are still in employment. We see the cronyism of the last government continue. 20 people with affiliations to Fine Gael or Labour have been appointed to state boards since you took office. And 5 of the 6 judges appointed by government on your watch have political affiliations to Fine Gael or Labour. At the same time, you refuse to call for accountability at the very highest levels of civil service. You insist on continuing with the appointment of the Secretary-General of the Department of Finance, Kevin Cardiff, to the European Court of Auditors. And I understand that you've gone so far, or your party has gone so far, to ask one of your own elected officials to be silent in her criticism of that matter. So can you tell me, Tánaiste, how you square that circle?
Thank you.
Public service reform is not about slashing numbers in the service. And can you tell me, more importantly, what you have to say to citizens who rely on public services, who at this time don't receive the public services that they require, what the slashing of further resources from those services will mean for them?
Thank you. Tánaiste.
Well, the question that Deputy MacDonald has asked is, has the government considered the impact of the reforms which Minister Howlin will announce today on frontline services? And the answer to that, Deputy, is yes, we have. Your second question was, how do we, as you put it, square the circle? And I'll tell you how. This government believes in public services. We need good public services and efficient and well-run public services in this country. And that is why we are undertaking to reform our public services. And those reforms are being announced later this morning by Minister Howlin. They will involve a reduction in the number of public servants, which will be done through the mechanisms that are provided for in the Croke Park Agreement, in other words, a voluntary arrangements which have already been negotiated and which have been provided for. Secondly, can I say to you, Deputy MacDonald, that in addition to believing in public services, we also respect public servants. And that is why I say to you again that it is so wrong for you to come into this House and to name individual public servants who do not have the opportunity or the privilege that you have of responding to your allegations about them here in this House. I think that is showing. I think that is showing disrespect, disrespect for our civil servants, and I would ask you to desist from doing so.
Deputy MacDonald.
Tánaiste, can I say to you that I too believe in public services and I have the utmost respect for public servants. I also believe in the accountability of the public and civil service at the highest leadership levels. I have put the matter directly to the Secretary-General from the Department of Finance vis-à-vis his proposed appointment to the Court of Auditors, and he did answer what I had to say, and I have to say the answers weren't very convincing. You see, you can't run away from the issue of high-level accountability, Tánaiste, if you're serious about reform. That's a fact. It might fit you better, Tánaiste, to demonstrate respect to the ordinary citizens of this state who rely on public services, and those public services require to be staffed adequately. You tell me that you've considered the consequences of the loss of a further 14,500 jobs. What will those consequences be? Diminished services, perhaps less efficient services, and more hardship for the citizens. So tell us, Tánaiste, how is it that a quality service can be delivered to our people when we have this kind of exodus from the service?
Thank you.
Your mantra has been doing more with less, but the fact is, if you don't have the adequate staffing levels, you cannot deliver the service.
Tánaiste.
Well, first of all, there will be an adequate staffing level, and as I said at the very beginning, the quality of the service to be delivered to the public has been at the centre of the decisions that the government have made, which will be announced later, about the reorganisation and reform of our public services. I don't think even you, Deputy MacDonald, would argue that there is a need to reform our public services, some of which for the reasons that you've stated. We need to have a more efficient public service. We need to have a public service that delivers value for money. We need accountability in our public service. And we need change. Public services and the demands of the public for services change over time. And therefore, there comes a time when it is necessary to change the way in which public services are delivered, to change the institutional arrangements that are provided for them, to change the number of agencies and the nature of the agencies that we have for providing public services. And all of that is part of the package of reforms that Minister Howlin will announce later today. That is being done so that we can deliver better, more cost-effective services to our public. Yes, we have to have accountability, and there will be accountability, and in fact there will be considerably improved accountability. But I also say this, that we have to respect our public servants. Our public servants do a good job, and you know, they have been the subject of ballyragging for far too long. Ballyragging by people, sometimes in media, and sometimes when I sat over there, and you can't point to a single occasion that I attacked public servants individually or generally. I respect public servants, and I respect the work that they do, and I think people in this House should show that respect. As well. But what we do have to have a better, more efficient, more focused public service, and that is what is at the nature of the reforms that Minister Howlin is announcing today.
Deputy McGrath.
Cancora, thank you very much. Today, Tánaiste, I'd like to raise the very important issue of inter-country adoption and the urgent need for our government to improve the situation, particularly in relation to Ethiopia. And before I get into the details of my questions, Ken Corla, can I first of all commend and thank all of our adoptive parents for their supportive and valuable contribution to children, and particularly to thank the 300 Irish families that are dealing with these specific questions this morning. So my first question, Tánaiste, is to ask you as Minister for Foreign Affairs if you will support our adoptive parents, and in this case our inter-country adoptive parents, particularly the 300 families and other potential adoptive parents. My second question, Tánaiste, is you'll probably be aware that Ethiopia, which is a huge population of 80 million people, has 5 million orphans, and just 3,031 of these are involved in inter-country adoptions. And again, the direct connection with Ireland is 300 of Irish adoptions. So what I'm saying to you, Tánaiste, this morning is, will you support these families as a matter of priority? And finally, can I ask you, Tánaiste, can you revisit and implement further the Hague Convention on the Protection of Children and push the issue at government level? And finally, will you take steps to ensure that the Minister authorises the Adoption Authority to commence negotiations with the Ethiopian authorities? Thank you, Concorda.
Thank you, Deputy.
Well, the answer to Deputy McGrath's question is yes, I will and am working with adoptive parents and families who are seeking to adopt children through the inter-country adoption method. Both the Minister for Children and myself have been working on this for some time, and indeed in the course of my work as Minister for Foreign Affairs, it is a subject that is regularly raised with other countries where the issue arises. For example, in my visit to Russia recently, I had discussions with the Foreign Minister there about the difficulties that are arising in relation to inter-country adoptions with Russia. Specifically in relation to Ethiopia, yes, we will pursue that issue. I know that my colleague, the Minister Jan O'Sullivan, has been pursuing the issue of inter-country adoptions with African countries, and we will pursue the issue. Now, I should say, of course, that there are, in some of these cases, as you're aware, there are complex issues that arise because the legislation and the regulations that apply here in relation to adoption and in relation to child custody can sometimes be quite different from the countries from which the children are being adopted, and it is how to square that difficulties and delays can sometimes arise.
Thank you, Tánaiste. Deputy McGrath.
I want to thank the Tánaiste for his response, and particularly in relation to the work that's been done in relation to Russia. But can I just go back to the Ethiopian situation as well? I just want them, as you as Minister for Foreign Affairs, to further develop Ireland's relationship with Ethiopia because of our long history and our long connections, and also our long adoptive connections over the past 20 years. But Tánaiste, can I further ask you if you're aware that Irish people who were approved for adoption prior to the enactment of the Adoption Act continue to affect adoptions for Ethiopian adoptions carried out to the Hague standards. And in other words, the children involved in these adoptions are very, very safe. Other countries, for example, like the USA and Sweden, continue to adopt from Ethiopia. And so what I'm asking you, Tánaiste, is why can't Ireland do that for our families? I take the point that there are complex issues involved in it, but the USA and, for example, Sweden are already getting on with their job in relation to the safety, child safety, and these complex issues that you're talking about. Also, can I ask you, Tánaiste, as well, if you're aware that there's never been any controversy surrounding Ethiopia adoptions, and can I ask the Tánaiste to verify this as Minister for Foreign Affairs, as parents will not be in a position to adopt a second child if we don't act now over the next few months. And finally, Ken Corla, can I ask the Tánaiste not to close the door to adoption from Ethiopia, as these families are very, very concerned? Thank you, Ken Corla.
Thank you, Deputy. Tánaiste.
Well, of course, the adoption arrangements do have to comply with the Hague Convention, as the Deputy is aware, and the arrangements that apply in individual countries have to be consistent with the Hague conditions and arrangements. I am very much aware of the difficulties which adoptive parents are experiencing, and I want to assure the Deputy that both I, the Minister for youth and children, and our respective departments will work to resolve the difficulties.
Thank you, Tánaiste.